And we're live. So this is my third guest that I'm interviewing, and an old friend without the D. Actually, what do you want to go by? Actually, just technician or
Just call me Johnny. I mean,
Johnny?
like my handle is whatever, but like, just call me Johnny. It's fine.
I actually don't remember. Johnny is not your real name, is it?
No, it is. I mean, technically, my real name is John, but I almost never go by John. I go by Johnny.
I see. So as my first guest, Sean, this is from the ASML podcast. You are one of the internet guys with which I have good times with.
Yes.
Do you want to? Do you want to introduce yourself?
I suppose. I mean, I guess I'll just say. So my name is Johnny. I studied mathematics in undergraduate, and I did a master's degree in mathematics. I worked in algebraic topology, specifically homotopy theory. I published a paper, and then I wrote another paper. I guess I still consider myself a mathematician, but as many people in this field, I'm open to other venues as well. I mean, I consider myself a Renaissance man in true generality, but mathematician is fine for now.
I love it. You know, it's funny you would bring that up, that word Renaissance man, because like we made this date. We said, let's meet and do a recording. I was just half an hour ago. I was just sitting at a cafe. I was doing some statistics. I was learning a book from a book, and I was then on my way home listening to a YouTube video where a guy lamented about the state of the world where people get in social media and the internet in general puts them in more and more bubbles and in closed circles, and he was describing this as a negative thing. So about it, I think closed circles are also cool, and we have our own stories about that. But also he was talking about the Renaissance as a time where there is not a closed circle, a 2D closed circle, but a 3D upwards spiral. And he was sort of hoping for that, and he I guess pitches to how to get there. So, and I thinking about this, I want to confront my guests with weird questions. And so my question to you is, which is also sort of on my mind.
Yes.
And the question is as following, and it is a little bit, you have to think about it a little bit.
Oh boy. All right.
So what was worse? What was worse, the Renaissance or the Enlightenment?
I guess the Enlightenment. I don't really have. Yeah, go on.
What comes to mind when you hear this question? How do you react to the phrasing also?
Well, I to be quite frank, I have a better understanding of, well, at least in my mind, of what you mean by the Renaissance. The Enlightenment, I'm not actually 100%. I mean, is that a subset of the Renaissance, or is that a period?
No, I mean, as I understand it, as I would, and I think this is more or less accurate. The Renaissance is associated with this Italian,
indeed,
Southern European revival of a lot of knowledge, and there's a certain freedom for various political reasons. Whereas, that this was the Renaissance is older, and then the Enlightenment is what comes about from the UK and Irish introduction of democracy proper in a modern sense, and then the scientific thinking. So this is if I think Enlightenment, then I think of Hume and what Kant reacts to, and so on and so forth. And I'm asking this question because of course writers and philosophers who want to be have a good take and an interesting take and that it's lasting, they tend to criticize some things, and it is the case that you have usually Enlightenment is occupied in people's mind as something very good, as is Renaissance. Both of them are weighted as humanity kind of pushed forward. Whereas these philosophers then, like I could tell you some philosophers who are like reacting negatively to the Renaissance, who say this was actually a bad time because didn't this fall off? And it's usually related to society and religion. And I know that you are I don't want to say negative Nancy, but you have like every now and again some takes on how things are going with the world, right? And so I would
sure.
I would think like maybe roll out like what is your like how do you think things are going wrong and went wrong, and maybe in relation especially to topics I discussed on my podcast, like science and how do you look in the future with technology and these kind of things?
Okay, so you mean, just to clarify, you mean like more current events?
I'm interested in both. Like, if you don't really like, I don't know what your take on that histories, and if you want to get into that. But since I have now in my podcast various people with which I talk about the evolution of learning and academia and society in general, I would be interested in that.
Okay, well, I certainly think, perhaps you've put more thought into this than I have, but I tend to associate, at least speaking of the Renaissance, with a more positive period personally. I think it was a time of great discovery. It was kind of like a revolutionary period, at least from what I understand historically. You have figures like Galileo and, other, I guess he was later, but, you have Newton in the 1700s and such, where today, I don't know if I could draw a parallel, but I feel that, of course, one of the biggest concerns today is artificial intelligence and jobs and what are people going to do and this and that sort of thing. The consequences of the exponential improvements in technology and how things have changed so rapidly, even since like 50 years ago, let's say. But I guess you're saying my outlook may be somewhat negative. I suppose, yeah. But I also understand that eventually probably things will sort out or even out as these sorts of technologies, as artificial intelligence and other such things roll out. You have people who were, software was very big in industry so many years ago, and everyone's mother was studying software, which diluted, in my opinion, the fundamentals of computer science. I'm not a big fan of that, but I feel like everything in industry gets watered down because capitalism doesn't thrive off of people learning Common Lisp and intellectual things. It doesn't really get anything done.
With Lisp and these nice computer sciencey languages,
yeah,
my gut feeling is that this is a little bit to blame on these concepts themselves. So maybe they are just not really amenable to, of course there is this tension between the practicality and people wanting to have people who can write JavaScript servers for websites and so on, and this is removed from CS. But yes. One could also say that the application of these languages, some Lispy languages, I don't even know if this is really a good example, because I'm sure there's good language like Racket or whatever, that
indeed
have a more practical bent. But the fact that this sort of some things fall out of fashion is maybe not purely the fault of this optimization, engineering, capitalism mindset, but also the problem lies a little bit in the scope that these languages and these theoretical concepts can provide, right? Maybe they were just exhausted after the researchers have picked the low hanging fruits, and I think younger people always have a little bit of a problem if they come to an established field. That was certainly the case in my PhD. So yeah, do you really want to blame that?
Yeah. Well, I think you raise a good point. I can see you. I can meet you on that. I think that part of what you're saying is certainly true. I think that imperative languages like C and C++ have in part seen more success, perhaps because they're I mean, for sure, they're easier to work with. There's obviously there's much larger library ecosystem and APIs and all these sorts of things. But I think in part too, though, functional programming in general is, of course, more in the academic realm. It certainly is not going to appeal to a broader audience that just wants to get work done. If you're not gonna, typically, unless you're a masochist, right? I guess a operating system kernel in Racket or something. So I think it kind of goes both ways. I'm not an expert in this subject. I'm coming from a math background with a very strong interest in math. It started in math foundations, and we could touch on that in a bit because I know you're into that. But it's also branched into computer science. I really like theoretical computer science, actually, even almost more than math. I could say almost very close. I really, yeah. It feels like math, but it's it has just the right amount of flavor to me to feel like it's something real, even though it's entirely it is entirely academic.
Has your topology studies sort of soured on you? Even can we say that?
That's a good call. I still liked topology quite a lot. It's a good question. Not entirely. So currently, actually, and you'll know, I'm reading homotopy type theory again with Sigma. We tried to do this about a year ago.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been a while. So we're trying to read homotopy type theory. We're on chapter 3. Actually, funny story. I was reading about how to define sets in homotopy type theory, and I was looking something up, and I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, oh, this is a good question. And then I scroll down, and lo and behold, it's Nikolaj-K. I'm like, oh, you're all over the internet here.
Where was that, on Stack Exchange?
Yeah, I was on Stack Exchange. You must have posted it like years ago, but it's just like a funny thing. Like, this was only like a day or two ago. I was like, I was kind of laughing. I'm like, okay, there you are.
It happens often, actually. Like people, like I have, like, because I think because I have delved into various subjects, people come up to me and say, oh, there's a physics question and you asked that, or here's a set theory question, like from 13 years ago. So I guess in a sense I take it as a compliment. It's funny because I also only posted on Stack Exchange for, I don't know, 6 years max, and then I completely stopped. But this all questions which get up to 100 upvotes or something like that, on differential operators or on Lagrange mechanics in particular.
Yes.
We don't have to get into that, but I have several negative takes on Stack Exchange.
I know. I understand.
Yeah, one of them is that you're once you if the guys who get in early get points forever. So yes. my I have not posted on Stack Exchange in 13 years, but my points there have quadrupled or are sevenfold of what they were before. But because these questions just stay there, they are good questions in a sense that people run into them and then they will upvote them and you get it's like the rich get richer.
Oh yes, well that's much the case really with anything. In fact, you probably I don't know if you've ever used Quora. It's much the same. I've been on there for mathematics, and there's this one guy Alon Amit, I think his name is. He's an Israeli guy, and he answers everything. And it's this guy apparently runs a business, but it seems like he's glued to answering math questions, and he answers a million questions, in a month. It's not literally, but it's a lot. But to your point is that once you get into some of these things, it's the rich get richer. it's the same concept even with perhaps cryptocurrency. If you bought Bitcoin at $5, it's quite trivial to,
Yes.
Yes.
You also were you were also a guy who did dabble into crypto, right?
Yeah. Actually, so it's interesting you brought that up. So
You brought it up.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Well, whatever. So I'm working on. I'm kind of working. Right now I'm trying to do something related to that, or at least computer security and industry. Like I'm writing a library. I mean, it's a toy library for like cryptography schemes like RSA and Diffie-Hellman and this kind of stuff in C. I'm using like GMP and OpenSSL, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's a portfolio piece, but sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask. You do that on yourself, and you're not wrapping it in your product. Do you even use it yourself, or is it just pure for the CV?
It is more for the CV as of right now. But I'm also looking to see. I'm trying to develop a sort of niche, which may or may not work out. But I'm trying to mix cryptography with automated theorem proving in the sense of software verification. So I'm trying to draw out like a kind of a unique niche. I may not find a particular career in that, but I have been.
What would that mean, like software verification and?
Yeah, like you would write a cryptography program, or like say you're doing like post quantum cryptography, and you develop. I mean, you implement a scheme in some language, and then you use a something like a little bit less academic than Lean. There's a for instance, there's a program called F-star that was created at Microsoft Research. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. I know.
Okay. You could use that to actually step through the source code to verify or prove that a certain implementation is secure as running through the code. So instead of running through a proof, you're running through code and proving security.
And but the cryptography stuff comes in that this is your subject matter for which you want to.
Well, yeah, this is kind of what I'm. Yes, yeah. So you would implement these things, and you would prove that they're secure. Similar via methods of like automated theorem proving, kind of.
It sounds like a very cool project where you can like extend your own stuff and learn a lot, and I like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I'm looking into. Of course, with many things in the world, I mean, the job I end up getting will probably be more just mundane, but nonetheless, it is. I would say it's a passion of mine at the moment. It's something it melds two very strong interests of mine. But there is software verification stuff in industry and other such types of jobs, Yeah.
And so you're not aiming for literally distributed computing and distributed systems like crypto stuff, but more.
I would be open to it. I mean, I'd say I'm open to a lot, but I'm kind of trying to see where this might lead, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm interested also in learning. I have lately noticed that I'm more glued to my phone than usual. Like I knew that people were like, I've never been on TikTok and these kind of things, and I knew that people were talking about like falling into shorts and this kind of thing. I could avoid it, but now it's also super pushed by YouTube, and then accidentally it happens sometimes that I end up I notice myself that I'm actually just scrolling shorts, and this is actually something to be avoided.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit time, so I definitely spend more time on my phone now, and I'm wondering how that impacts my learning. So as I told you, I was just at a cafe, and I'm sitting down with a book, and I have the feeling that I have to like now to get into a flow where I really make notes and those kind of things. I need a buffer like before upfront, like 20 minutes to even start getting into it, like opening the first page and this kind of thing. So I think I'm getting a little bit less effective lately. I wonder how is your learning at the moment? Has it like changed maybe since you wrapped up your thesis? And so do you think you learn worse or better, or is it maybe better because you're working on something that interests you? And how much do you spread between topics? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I mean, I think that like usually when I set out to learn something, or like kind of like what you're doing, I've even gone to whatever cafe and I read a textbook or whatever. Typically, I don't know. I mean, once I start reading the book, I usually become absolutely absorbed in it. It's generally hard for me to get distracted because, in fact, it's almost probably better to go out in public in some sense because, you're not going to be fiddling around with whatever like PC games or oh, I got to do that, right? You know, you're I mean, you're very constrained to what you can do in public in a cafe.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, it's a little bit, in some sense, you know, even though there's people walking around and all this and talking, it paradoxically, like, it's a little bit easier to focus, I believe. I mean, I still can focus at home, and lately I have just worked at home, but in terms of like reading and learning, I mean, you know, I mean, my methods probably have come a long way. It's you know, I don't know if I've ever, how I could describe how they've changed over time. I mean, I've definitely learned how to learn, and I mean, of course, but I think the thing that's given me the most confidence is when I had to write papers. You know, before then, and you know, even you pointed this out some time ago, early on in Algebraist Anonymous. A shout out to them, as we'll call it. Yeah, you know, I think there was a point early on where you had said, "Oh, you know, you guys should read papers," because you know, at the time, Largo and I and everybody are like, "Oh, we got to read this book and we got to read that book and we got," you know, and it's like we're just going to read books for 100 years, but. Right, you know, books they're dead knowledge. Now, of course, they're fundamental to learn the fundamentals, quite literally. But you know, when you begin to think, how do I make an original contribution?
Yeah, there was. This, right? I mean, I cannot fully remember, but there was surely no
it's
point.
It's been a while.
If you just stick to books, then you are always like 30 years behind.
Indeed, yeah. So I mean, yeah, and I mean, you know, of course. So I guess the crux of this is that like when I had to do research, it really built my confidence, I think, to learn even more, because it was like now you're presented with something that, you know, nobody's tried before, and you know, it's not. I mean, you know, obviously this isn't the. I'm not solving the Riemann hypothesis or resolving the Hodge conjecture here or whatever, but like, you know, I even something small, it you know, once you're able to do it, it builds a lot of confidence, and I guess, you know, going back now, reading books seems pretty straightforward, you know, because it's really just you get into the role, especially in something like mathematics, where it's just like theorem, lemma, corollary. Right.
Everything is like
already
like curated.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say overall, you know, I guess the hardest part, and perhaps you feel this way, maybe a lot of people, you know, in our circles do, is you know, I do tend to want to learn everything, you know. I mean, not that you know, like
you're accusing me of something.
No, well, I'm the same way. I mean, I you know, if it's up to me, I'd be reading like 10 books at a time. I'm not even kidding. Like, but it's just not practical, right? So you know, and you know, as I've become the ultimate book hoarder here, because I'm selling my books out to like all these people all over the world now, because I must have like 250 math textbooks, you know, in my closet or whatever. But
you're reselling them. You don't make just a wall of books.
Well, some of so what happened is I got interest, you know, going from undergraduate to a graduate phase, you know, you're in experimental mode. You're like, what do I like? Will I like PDE? Will I like this? So you know, I had worked a job before and I had a lot of money sitting around. So I just went crazy, and I'm like, oh, I'll just buy this book. I'll buy that. Like, I really didn't care. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, you know, in the long run, a lot of these books, they're very cheap. I mean, you know, what's a book? Okay, you know, I mean, okay.
That's a hot take.
I know. Okay, maybe, but I mean, whatever.
Oh, these cheap Springer books everywhere.
I guess so. Yeah. maybe that's kind of a good point. But they're not terrible. I mean, right? I'm not going out and I'm not splurging on Ferraris and Lamborghinis here. You know.
No, you know, books are like weird because they are so nice, right? I have this. You can see it on the screen. I show it to Johnny. Multivariable technique. Modern multivariate statistical techniques, and this is like this blue thick Springer book. It has like 800 pages, and it's just so nice. It's such a nice object. I don't know. Like for me, this is like I can like I have also this sort of aesthetic thing with books. I don't know, there's like conceptually such a nice thing. So I can completely understand that you get into that. So I'm actually surprised that you would resell them because you don't need to sell them for food or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it's mostly because, like, believe it or not, even though I'm a hoarder with books, I guess that's really the only thing I'm a hoarder with. Like, I'm kind of a minimalist. I really only like to own what I deem to be very close to me. I don't know, you're laughing.
You will have this like meme, male living spaces.
Oh yeah,
the couch to sleep on and the huge bookshelf.
I mean, it could be close to that. Yeah, I mean, maybe not that extreme, but I when I was younger, actually, I like almost wanted to live like that, like just have one chair and like one pillow, But I mean, as time has gone on, I'm a little bit more reasonable. But what I'm saying is, I still want to kind of everything I own. I really wish to cherish. I don't want to just own things to own junk.
This is like very Petersonian, like clean up your room, clean up your mind.
Yeah, I suppose. So the books I've given away, I mean, I've only given away a bunch of books to somebody I met in Turkey, who is very not all that wealthy, and they were very grateful for it, and I just wanted to give it to them as a gift. And they're definitely somebody who's has a lot of potential, I think, mathematically. So
you were in Turkey?
I was not in Turkey. I met somebody through similar means in which I've met other members of AA. And yeah.
Yeah. So actually, tell me, like, where are you at the moment? You are on the East Coast, right?
Correct. I am in Pennsylvania on the East Coast.
And do you like? Where have you gone around on the world? And will you ever show by in Vienna before I show by in Pennsylvania?
That's a good question. So I unfortunately have not traveled very much. I would hope to break that sooner than later. I've been up and down the East Coast, and I have been as far west as Pittsburgh. I know that's not much, but I have never been to Europe. I've actually never left the country. But I have many friends now in Europe, and I would like to visit. I would like to go to Switzerland and Austria, and
yeah, come by. I mean, I show you around.
Yeah.
I think I'm a good tour guide, and I give you a history tour about the monarchy, and I'll shit on the Prussians a little bit.
Okay.
You get the vibe. Actually, I am considering to go to Japan next year, and I might because Sean also said he might want to, and maybe we do it together, like in September or in October or so, just as a bro vacation tour. So maybe that will happen.
Yeah, are you going to meet there? I'd like to. I mean, Japan is basically number one on my visiting list.
Really? Okay, we got into the the Japan tour, the unexpected one. Yeah, I mean, the problem is with people like organizing this. In my experience, like people sometimes then say, "Oh no, actually something comes in between." So either like. If I commit, I will definitely do it and will try to organize it. But I'm usually not very trusting in that people, and if they say yes, then actually do it. But in principle, it's definitely open. So I guess at the beginning of next year, I will come back to you again, and we will organize it. I mean, I expect Sean will listen to this as well, and so maybe he should initiate.
No, for sure. Yeah, let me know. I'd be open to it. Yeah, for sure.
But in any case, for you and for anyone who listens to this podcast, really, right? I always forget to make these shout outs, but I am planning to do more regular Friday uploads, and I like to do more of these kind of conversations, and I want to have like academics on, and in particular physicists and mathematicians and so on. So if you out there hearing this and you want to actually come on the pod and you have something to say and you have a little bit of academic credentials to some degree, or you're a fantastic shit poster, then please come on. Yeah, okay, so do you do any topology anymore, or is this like behind you and you're like just focusing on the incidental number theory that you have to do for the cryptography, and are just more on the coder mind now?
Well, yeah, so this is a good. So I mean, I guess at this point, right now, I haven't done topology formally. I mean, so previously, of course, I wrote the paper with my advisor, and then I wrote another paper which was like in topological algebra. So it was like homotopy groups, but you can look at the homotopy groups as topological spaces in of themselves, and this creates a richer structure to effectively analyze like certain, in quotations, complicated spaces. So a lot of that stuff is actually quite interesting to me. I would continue to pursue that almost as a hobby, because I really quite like the field my advisor worked in. And it's kind of niche, it's not like there's, I'm not competing with, Jean-Pierre Serre and,
But so as someone who, for better or worse, tends to opt for this sort of math, which is still, I consider myself purely like I'm a theory-headed guy. I'm interested in mechanics and intelligence, so I'm not like an application kind of guy. But nonetheless, if I have the feeling that something can actually do something and have like an impact, I'm much more drawn to it.
Yes.
So what is it actually that how does it fit that you are interested in pure like this topological spaces? I mean, you don't have to justify your interest, but I would like to understand a little bit of your mind better. Like what is it that draws it to you when, on the other hand, you say you're actually into programming for something which is closer to what I just described?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess to be quite short, I enjoy both. I mean, I enjoy the thinking theoretically, and I enjoy applications of things. I mean, the topology side is certainly more intellectually based, and I mean, it's pure intellectualism. I mean, it's not like this stuff deals with like the Hawaiian earring and higher dimensional Hawaiian earrings and these sorts of spaces that, I mean, you don't walk outside and see a Hawaiian earring or whatever.
But let me stop you a little bit here. So I mean, I think the way you just describe it, that's not really the right dichotomy, because even if things are like, even let's say the cryptography thing, there is like higher theoretical math that you can do that will actually have an impact, and that would be closer to my motivation, right? I like theory. I like complicated things. I like things where there's only like 2,000 people in the world who even understand it.
Yes.
And this is not like in conflict with application. I mean, there's like this more practical programming that I also do not find so appealing. But I like theory, but I like the theory where I have the feeling that if I find it out, it has more of an impact. So yesterday, I was interviewing this YouTube channel person, K Theory. Have you heard of him?
I think I might have. That sounds kind of familiar. Yeah.
You can look up. Shout out to myself. He interviewed me a week ago, and he has like a Dr. Nikolaj-K. We talk physics, Gilmore Girls, and something. Look it up. You might like it.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
And he is in Langlands.
Okay.
And this is also like fairly, let's say, romantic sort of math, because it's not even, it doesn't even pretend to be as close to reality as cryptography applications. And I understand that he is more of a math guy to me. But you have inclinations in all these directions. So, and that's why I try to understand like how math for math, pure topological objects, what is appealing about it? And this is particular to topology, or would you say like even other category constructions and so on are appealing to you there?
Well, I mean, maybe this will answer it. Like I started, I mean, for a long time, I was just a pure mathematician, or I wanted to continue to be a pure mathematician. I wanted to do math for math's sake. I actually did not care about applications. I've been, I guess I'll say, blessed in my life that I've been able to at least do that up to the point where I've done it. And that's what I pursued for quite a while. I, before studying pure math, I was going to do electrical engineering, and I suppose I used to have a lab in my house. I used to have an oscilloscope, like logic analyzer. So I'm actually very good at soldering and all that kind of stuff. But but I don't know. I started taking math courses in undergrad, and I just started realizing, these math guys are onto something. You just sit around and you drink coffee and you just think about stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to get your hands dirty, right? So I mean, that's kind of how I kind of ended up in that. It's not like I didn't initially have an interest in applied things. I love computers. I love retro computers. I love all that digital circuitry, all that kind of stuff, and I still very much do. But yeah, for a long time, I was just pure mathematician. I was like, somebody like, whatever, like entropy or somebody who, that's all I wanted to think about. I wanted to spend my days thinking about pure mathematics. But I guess you could say at this point, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate application again more, I think. And I don't see anything wrong with being involved, even lightly in both. I mean,
you're just a Renaissance man, right? You're just.
I'd love to. I mean, you can't really be today because you have to specialize, I guess. But if it was up to me, I'd be an astronomer, a physicist, a mathematician, an engineer, a philosopher. I want to be like John von Neumann or whatever, Johnny von Neumann.
I want to bomb the Soviets, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe it's cope on my side, but I have the feeling that if you know a lot of things, then maybe you are in a unique position to combine things. I mean,
I think that's fair. Well, I think that's where niches or unique insights come from. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but even I think the mathematician like Vladimir Arnold.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
he's on I have this video on the top 10 hottest mathematicians.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's on.
He's on there. Okay.
One, of course, because he lost his hair when he was old, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember that actually. I didn't, but I forgot he was on the list.
Yeah, but just look at him, then you would know.
Well, I mean, he's an interesting guy to some degree because I don't know if I would categorize. I mean, he was, I guess, a pure mathematician, but a lot of the stuff he did was right, like in physics and classical mechanics, celestial mechanics, these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think even like pure mathematics in general can be separated into so many areas too. Because I mean, like for instance, like I think of what does a pure analyst do, and yes, there are pure analysts. I mean, but a lot of them seem to end up working in things that harken back to what again, electromagnetic, celestial mechanics, these sorts of physical things. Because continuous mathematics came out of the desire, right, to understand the physical world in a sense.
Yeah, that's truly the origin, Newton and so on. The thing is, when I think practicing analysts and practicing epsilon delta people, I think actually on stochastic processes first, and then I think finance mathematics. That would have been the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm not sure if in today's world, electrical engineering. If this is not so old that you don't actually need this hard math theory people, I don't know if they go into this field. Maybe I'm wrong there, but
I think you're right. It'd only be like a niche, like if you're in I think control theory or like very specific sub niches. But a lot of electrical engineers, they only ever do like V equals IR. That's all they need. They're good to go. I mean, that's just the way it is. But
I mean, there's of course like quantum, and I myself worked in this laboratory at the ISA in Vienna, where I was writing Python code like drivers, and there are like things who have people who like they do electrical stuff and semiconductor like microscopic stuff, and they do like cool math, and my impression is they are good with the things they do, like they have like intuitions for this practical operator theory, Hilbert space, quantum mechanics kind of math, but they are not I mean, I don't want to, like, the physicists for sure are not like the super, like, they are theoreticians, but still this is a little bit different from functional analysis math students who, like, these physicist guys would not care about the axiom of choice and what is provable or not in functional analysis with or without it, I think. So I also don't see like pure mathematicians in this, even in these like more theoretical engineering fields. So I don't know. My feeling is that the time where you actually need the like hard math for electro is gone for a while.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I mean, in fact, I mean, I think in reality, the unfortunate reality is that, I mean, it is true that a lot of very deep math is not so much used in industry, right? I mean, a lot of the methods are just boiled down to cookie cutter, plug numbers in and go to work or whatever. I mean, it's only really the privileged few who get to sit down and ruminate over higher topos theory at Hawaii or whatever. Hawaii, I forget how to say that company's name, but like
Yeah. I mean, actually, a little bit coming back in a circle, because now we are again there where math subjects are distilled for, not necessarily, I'm not necessarily talking about capitalism and for industry,
Okay.
but just for their particular fields. If there's like quantum computing, and there's now already textbooks, and then you get a more and more specialized field, and these are not written in this generic way that you have to learn everything about the underlying mathematics, or you not have the general theory in always, but you have the really relevant, like, for example, if an engineer learns about Fourier transforms, and even a physicist, there is like a gigantic theory of Fourier analysis which they don't even know exists.
Right, because they're just learning the tool to do signals analysis or whatever.
Yeah, or even just even what I mean, they can be theoreticians. They can work in strange Hilbert spaces, and they can do things that like a literal engineer would not know. But yeah, in any case, so let me ask this boring question: where do you see yourself in 3 years?
Oh, all right. I don't know. I mean, hopefully doing something I enjoy for a career. I mean, that's effective. That's pretty much my goal. I'd like to be. I mean, if I end up in something IT or computer security, again, it's fine. But I'd like to be. Again, I going back to compute. I really enjoy learning about touching on the theoretical side of computer science. I also like the practical side of it. I like learning how computers work, how the CPU works. I was actually reading a assembly programming book. I'm reading it slowly, but that sort of stuff has actually always fascinated me. I really like low level programming, which might come as a surprise because I also like high level stuff like functional programming. I actually enjoy both almost equally, basically. As crazy as that might be, but
And you're reading homotopy type theory at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. See, this is the thing. I mean, and I still would love to be reading even more. I mean, I have this book, Logic for Computer Science, which is an introduction to automated theorem proving. Although that goes more along with.
It's funny because like K-Theory also said he applied for an automated theorem proving. I think it was a postdoc. He got declined in Sweden.
I see.
But yeah, it must be like the fact that you also bring it up now seems like it's a little bit of a hype. I might even say a big topic.
I'm sorry. What type of topic?
Theorem proving.
Yeah. But you said you described it as something. What did you?
As a hype, like
Oh, okay,
it's on everybody's mind. I know that Terence Tao is into it,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I might have the bias, but like since I'm trying to get my head around AI with a focus on intelligent more so than theory improving more maybe, but maybe I'm in a bubble. But it seems this is really like the talk of the town, and people ponder about what the future of doing math looks like. And I think about it as well, like once the support of these machines is so strong that it takes over, will it be harder or easier for the average person to contribute to mathematics? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I have thought about as well. I mean, it's I don't. I mean, I was originally thinking about going into machine learning stuff, but that's another story. But I already what we have seen with machine learning is quite, I mean, impressive, at least to me, I guess. I mean, with some things, I mean, it's quite good at, let's say, undergraduate subjects. At least I can only speak to my expertise, but like mathematics, it's undergraduate. But when you feed it something, like I've tried feeding it research, like I'm working on this research question. Here's this, thing I'm trying to prove or whatever, and then it doesn't know what it's doing. It shits the bed effectively, but and nonetheless, I mean, I can only imagine, in another in another decade, it could be quite more sophisticated, though maybe not. I don't know enough to speak too intelligibly on the subject, but that's kind of my.
Yeah, I think this is a contentious point. I am on the record usually to being optimistic, if you want to say it like that.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed, like if you compare to today and 2 years ago. I mean, I concede that what it does well is interpolation. If something is in several textbooks, then I think it gets it down.
Yes.
If you try to go out of the box of what has been published, it's not particularly good.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm personally, and I was never opposed to it, right? So it's funny that on Discord and Stack Exchange and so on, people were always like very negative about it, and it has also a political bent because the populace, let's say, the people who are not involved in technology, are generally against like generative AI and so on. So there's a negative view, but this muds a little bit the conversation. I think it works pretty well for interpolation. Like by interpolation, I mean it can conjure up everything that's in a textbook very well. And I expect that it will improve. And I see every day now people on X, even in physics, but also in math, like make it claims at least, saying, "Oh, this helped me. This came up with this idea. I hadn't thought about it." And then there's always like debate about, is this actually like, did the researcher enable the AI to prove something new, or was it just not in the petto? Like, did this particular researcher just not know that this is already somewhere on the internet, and this was just a discovering tool? But to me this feels like a goalpost shifting. Clearly, people are using it. And clearly, it supports them. So I don't want to get into a fight whether or not LLMs are particularly good, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see it going both ways. I mean, I somewhat, I think everybody is unsure to some degree because there's this question of like could this change the way the economy is structured and all this. Now maybe they'll probably emerge other jobs, or we'll all be just living in Yang Gang and we'll be living at home. Everyone will just be a neat making
Yang Gang. This is so like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just in my head. but I mean, but who knows? I mean, more likely, I guess I would lean towards they'll probably just create new jobs, like whatever, like prompt engineer or like prompt mathematician or whatever. So because like but I still wonder, because it's like when the calculator came out or when the Industrial Revolution occurred, people who were farming with who had ox and bulls pulling plows, they couldn't even conceive of, well, this works, why do we need a diesel engine tractor, I mean, or is this going to put everybody out of work, so these sorts of things, it really is amazing how humanity really has the same issues. We've had the same issues through all of our history. Even go back 200 years, people were having the same thoughts, the same problems.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
But
it really reduced the amount of people working on farms drastically, right? It's like from 60% down to 3% just since Marx. So
no, I mean it did. I mean, at least in America, from what I know, I don't know specifically about Europe, but I mean, in America, I think there was a time where like 80% of people were farmers
Yeah.
for their,
Yeah.
you know, and now today it's like 1 or 2% at most.
Yeah. No, I mean, I at one point last year looked it up because I got the thick Marx saga, this Kapital, and for context, I have some people who are not they're scared of the word socialism and Marxism and communism for sure, and I learned just some things like debating and the pros and cons of these kind of things, and then I looked up on the internet, and it turns out, for example, that when Marx wrote this thing, I don't know, what was it, 1860?
Oh boy, yeah, I think that sounds right. I'm not an expert at it either, but
yeah, so certainly like 19th century Germany. He's talking about the proletariat, the workers, and as a revolutionary item. And the funny thing is that today people interpret it as like, oh, the working class, this is just the bulk of people. But back then it was like not a majority group. Like he was talking about like, oh, workers unite, but the workers were like separate from all the farmers out in the rural areas, which were like over 50%. And so I know for a fact that like 200 years ago it was more than 50%, and now it's right. So 3% or 2%, as you say, like these people who operate these farms, and there's a lot of automation and so on and so forth. So it's like, just for the Marx example, it's funny that to think that if you read actually what he literally writes, you have to think of a completely different societal structure context. You should be very wary if you project the writing about the ruling of the proletariat. This has a different vibe if you interpret it now and you think, oh, he just means the non-rich people, when in reality he literally meant like a subgroup of people that were like in their interest opposed to actually another majority. So it's just finally something to consider, right? And yeah, I mean, I agree that unless you want to respond to Marx, I want to give you some room here.
Yeah, no. I was just going to agree with you. I mean, I understand the I can't think of the word, like the what effectively just things were. It's a different social situation back then. Effectively,
And I mean, this is a common insight that the problems reemerge. And this is also the reason why you can still read Plato, and you still like the arguments are still relevant and in a weird sense up to date, right? It's always about like root of the majority and what do I do? What is the good life? These questions never seem to go away, even if we wait 3,000 years. Yeah, so I think there will something happen. I don't know, prompt mathematician. My thing, and I have developed this sort of take in the last 10 days or so, is that I think it's fair to say that mathematicians are not just interested in the math itself. They do not just want to learn it, but they also want to contribute to it, and they want to be the math person. They want to establish themselves as the guy who is smart and came up with this result, and so on and so forth. And once you have like not already now, but in the next year, students who grow up with these LLMs that they can ask and see, oh, this LLM is actually much superior than me. They has already learned this thing and sucks up knowledge as it comes out.
Yeah,
and they might be discouraged actually. And so I think this will impact like this more romantic math culture quite a bit. Maybe less people wanting to risk their career or life going into this if they know they can be scooped by a machine.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, I do think that, and to your point on that, I think that And I guess you'd agree. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, if I always hear about all this hype. Like, there's all these like clickbait articles. It's like I wake up and I look at an article and it's like, oh, the CEO of NVIDIA says he just discovered generalized AI. It's like, but a lot of the problem is when money gets involved, and obviously this, like, right, you get all the trolls come out of the woods, and you start, you don't know what's real anymore. And it's kind of one of the things I sort of hate about all of this hype. I think artificial intelligence and machine learning stuff is interesting, but I can't stand the fact that it's so dumbed down, in society. And I know, it's like, oh, we just got to push people through the system and make them into efficient workers and all this stuff. But I feel like it dilutes the, sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but
no, that's fine. Yesterday I uploaded a video for people to see where I basically do codex, vibe coding, and do some statistics. I don't know if you have seen it. I'm currently using Cursor, but I don't use actually the Cursor AI, but I use an OpenAI subscription.
Okay.
And just because I know that a lot of people actually have no idea what this vibe coding looks like in practice.
Yeah.
And here, when something comes out and people say, oh, I used to replicate, like these advertisements are saying, I made a video game in 30 minutes, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
These kind of things. But, this is like very toy model thing. Why would you make a video game? I mean, you will probably not sell it. I don't know if, I don't know big success stories where people who literally do not code do this. But the way I use this in my IDE, which is Cursor, which is basically just VS Studio. Okay. In this video, it's a 1 hour recording where I create a data set with basically 3 columns of 20 rows, so like, I don't know, 60 values or whatever. Yeah. And I do a regression and this kind of thing, and I do it in a way where I only I don't touch code apart from 1-2 points where I debug, but I basically just dictate, hey, come up with 20 names which are students, and come up with their grades. The grades are sampled from a normal distribution, and I just type it in natural language. I generate this data set, and then I do a regression and so on. Yes. And I do not touch the code. In this sense, it's a pure vibe coding video. And yeah, so I would say this is a thing, and you can do this, and I do use this. Like I do. Do you remember? I have this wiki. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember it. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, it's cool, and I wrote that before LLMs came out.
Yes.
But now I recently made some extensions where I said, hey, on the top right and bottom right, make me a button such when I click it, it scrolls down to the end of the page and these kind of things. And this worked very nicely out of the box with no bugs. Where I just dictate what I want. I just said, hey, add to the HTML this and this, and I also created hey, make if you see a string which looks like a link, and by that I mean it has HTTP in front of it, and column / then make it a a proper link in the HTML so that it can link to the Wikipedia page, blah blah blah, and I did this by just vibe coding. I didn't actually manipulate the code myself. So it is definitely there, and that's usually where I get my optimistic view on this thing. So I think they work, and I can only imagine that once the Manhattan-sized OpenAI data center goes online, the reasoning level of these tools will go up, and so I'm pretty sure that in 3 years it's another jump forward. So yeah, that's my view, and I don't judge it. I'm afraid it will have some negative implications for academic culture and the mathematicians, because it will be discouraging. So this is my prediction here. I'm on record here saying that this is what will happen. I don't know how you I don't want to talk too much on this interview. What do you think about this?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's certainly going to change some stuff. I mean, I think, I don't know how, for instance, programming may look. I mean, I don't even know how that's going to go down, because, it's like, even I will, honestly, I'll use the AI to generate a lot of like boilerplate stuff for some of the projects I work on, right? Because it's just tedious stuff that the interesting part is writing the algorithm or something like that. And you can even do that technically, but I try to be mindful with it. But of course, you're going to have people who just want to get stuff done, and they're going to generate a bunch of spaghetti code and whatever.
You still want to understand the
Oh yeah,
algorithm to extent.
Even if I say like write me a routine to do RSA encryption or something, right? And it does the whole thing. I don't just copy and paste it ever. Like I literally look at it. I literally write it out, and I think about like because there's in my way, there's a mindful way to do things and a non-mindful way to do things, so to speak. And hell, like if I'm gonna do that, I'd rather do it in a way that is suitable to me learning or continues to help me. I think a lot of people are right? They're lazy, to be frank, and they just. I mean, I understand in certain circumstances, but what I'm saying is like I'm just always very careful when I do these sorts of things. But anyway, back to the original point. Yeah, I wonder if people are going. I mean, I think they'll still be. I think a lot of the more mundane things will certainly be most immediately automated away. But things like, for instance, like, and maybe I'm biased here, but like security still needs human intervention, right? Because you can't just trust a machine to protect, for instance, like a hospital's database. And then it's like, oops, the AI screwed up. We just they want $500 billion in Bitcoin, because the AI just leaked all our information. I mean, somebody has to be held accountable, I think, or should still double check.
What is there's this famous quote, right? The machine,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we will see how that goes down. What do you think of our overlords like Peter Thiel and so on? What is your take? Give me some hot takes here.
I don't think very highly of them. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Klaus Schwab, to be honest. I mean, I'll probably be. I don't know if I'll disappear after this, but
I think these guys are pretty much on the way out anyway. Like
right.
So I'm not sure if like he's super relevant anymore. But Palantir and Zuckerberg and so on, they are certainly relevant still.
Right, and or Elon Musk. I mean, I think a lot of people honestly have good intentions. The problem is that, right, they always become money just is so seductive for people and they get corrupted. It's very, very hard to resist. I mean, it's like, to be frank, it's like, it's like if a naked woman jumps on top of you and you're like, oh, you can't do anything about it. I mean, it's just human nature. Like, it's so hard to fight that. Like, oh no, I'm going to go back to my room and read book. You're right. Like,
it depends. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm not horny enough, but it's like if it's a random woman, I would probably be disturbed.
I know what you mean, but I'm just trying to say, like, it's hard to override your lizard mind. It's very difficult. So I think my point is I guess these people, I think they go in with good intentions, but then the systems become complex and then they corrupt them and yada yada.
Yeah.
So like I'm sure even Klaus Schwab had good intentions probably when he started the World Economic Forum, but again, these people get old. They're in there too long, and then they start thinking like, well, I'm good at this. I'm good at everything. And it's just.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the world is just too complex for a human actually to comprehend, and then whatever you do, it will have some negative consequences. And the more power you have, the more leveraged your negative aspects are.
Yeah, for sure, especially today. I mean, I think, and there's a whole, as you are probably well aware, there's a whole, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences. But I mean. The life has become much more complex, exponentially so in only 50 years. I mean, think about 50 years ago, what the 1970s looked like compared to today. And
what do you think of why in particular in the 70s? Like, interesting that you choose this point.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm only using the 70s because let's say it's a good mark for about 50 years ago, half a century ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
what the 69er revolution?
You can go 69. I mean, whatever, 69, 70, 70. I mean, this 1970 is the Unix epoch, so let's hear it for that. But like,
what happened in 71?
71? I don't know. I mean,
No,
where?
Are you do you know this website? What happened in 71?
No, I'm not aware of it. Actually, is
really?
this a reference to something? No.
Yeah. It's like a big thing. I think it's 71. I hope I'm not wrong here. So
Okay.
there is when Nixon declared that
so the gold
US
standard.
Yeah, exactly. What they go on of the gold standard, and it is a phenomenon in economy. And you should, like, I will send you this link later, and everybody listen to it can show it, look it up. There's this website where they detail a bunch of economics graphs, and you have this this sharp point or inflection point in 71 when he said, now we're changing the currency system. Now we're just printing money. And then you have the situation, for example, that the productivity goes up, but the worker income, inflation adjusted, does not go really up, and so on and so forth. So that's why, like, this is a phrase, like what the website is, I think, called literally what happened in 1971, and you have all these bad things happening there. So I thought maybe that it's a reference of you, but also, of course, people. Like, I think there was like the hippie sexual revolution thing was shortly before that. So
yeah,
that's why people sometimes take this as an inflection point. But was like, sorry, my reaction was basically 70s. We were already in this Thatcherite capitalist thing in full swing. So I would actually have dated it earlier. Like, if you want to pick a different time, I would not have chosen 50 years. I would have gone even further down, because I think already in the 70s, like if you look at Taxi Driver or whatever, people had this more like cortisol levels up because horrible city living conditions or whatever.
Well, I think one of the reasons I'm picking the 70s, and I understand where you're coming from. I mean, one of the reasons my thought to pick the 70s is it's the last decade. Like, if you think about the 1980s and forward, all of the technology we use today and are still using basically emerged in the 1980s. I mean, that's where the personal computer became a thing, and that cell phones became a thing, right? So iteratively, it's just improved since then. Now, prior to the 80s, the 70s was like the last time where people didn't have cell phones. They didn't have personal computers in their houses. They didn't, they had a rotary phone at best and like a television. I mean, that's still technology. And I understand what you're saying, right? Like, we're still in the depths of, and you probably could pick another period, I suppose, but I guess what I'm just trying to get at with the 70s was I don't know, just thinking about how much has changed since that particular time period. I mean, I could have chosen, I don't know, the 10s or something, but about your comment on the inflection point too. I mean, I think that the gold standard is a big one. And the other one is the establishment of the Federal Reserve. That's also very controversial. But that goes back even earlier, because it's like money printer, go burr,
Yeah, exactly. So that would be after the war, like the Bretton Woods.
Yeah, I think so.
Very American conversation here, but yeah, exactly. I had I will release this, I think, next week. So when this recording with you comes out, this will already have been released. I had last week, I don't think I told you this, a young guy on who he has sort of a Nietzsche YouTube channel, and like he's like a aesthetic lifter, but also like a thinker kind of person. And I had him on because he had like a theory that he talked about on one of his videos, which is called Guna accelerationism.
Okay. Yeah.
And because he has this very radical take, and you can react to it without having listened to this interview. You will listen to it, I'm sure. But he basically says, it's clear that we are drifting in this world where people are even more isolated, and we were talking in this interview about like the pod people, the people who are like isolating themselves, they just are like logging into a virtual world where you can like obtain some pleasure. It's a little bit 1984, even though I think he doesn't reference that in his
article. Like Brave New World, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Brave New World. But his take, his out there take is that he says, well, this is good actually, because it will mean that those people who are naturally inclined to resist that, and he identifies them, and I give him some pushback, but we have a good conversation about that. He identifies that with sort of creative people who really want to live in the real world where there's some pain coming back, where they don't want to isolate themselves completely. He says it's actually good because the pod people, well, they will not reproduce anyway then, and you have a sort of eugenic cleansing of the population, which is a little bit wild. But on this base, he argues, well, this is actually positive. What do you think about this?
No, I kind of see the argument he's making. Yeah, I mean, like, at least if I'm understanding it correctly, like, I think he's trying to say, like, people, well, maybe I'm not, I don't know, like, people who are kind of locked into this virtual world and like we're more isolated, like, gives them more time to be, some of the people who will use the time will be more productive in their free time.
He basically has, he sees, like, for him, it's like you have this creatives who actually are more tied to the real world, more like, I don't fully understand it. He ties it to and sort of eroticism even. Like, there's some pain pleasure in the real world, and these are the more like the active people who will continue to live in the real world. And then there is this matrix that some people succumb to because they basically isolate themselves in the pod where they sort of die out naturally. Like, these people who are inclined to just opt for the virtual world, for the pure internet, the pure pleasure principle. They you will have the split of the surviving people and those who are naturally going to be not there in a few generations anyway, because they're inclined to fall into the matrix trap, so to speak.
Okay, yeah, I get it now. Okay, yeah, I don't know. It's an interest. I mean, yeah, I guess that could be a thing. I mean, I see people like us though, like, or like more like introverted people being the matrix people, because like, I mean, I'm pretty introverted. I like to be left to my own devices to do the things I want to do. Sure you are as well. I mean, I like to go out and be a human, I guess, but like,
yeah. I mean, he concedes that it is of course tempting to he associated with like this Blade Runner Joy girlfriend, if you have seen this, and he says, of course, this is it's of course nice, and if the outside world is too horrible, then he might not be strong enough himself to resist this. So I don't think he necessarily puts himself up over this. I find it interesting that you consider myself an introvert. I mean, I don't disagree, but at least on the this psychology, like personality type tests, I'm consistently an ENTG.
ENTG. Okay,
I'm extrovert. Apparently, and I would agree to the extent that while I am bookish for sure, I'm not I'm not super autistic. I'm not like introverted. Such.
Are you saying artistic or autistic?
Like I'm not like I can talk to people. I can be charming and stuff, which the introverts are probably not.
Yeah, so. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know how much weight you put into MBTIs or whatever. I mean, I always pretty much consistently rank as INTJ, but
I thought so.
I'm not, but I'm not really like autistic or anything. Like I'm just very shy, like, and quiet. Like, I know how to talk to people and I know how to do, but I don't do it unless I need. I don't have a choice, effectively. Like I don't speak unless I see a reason to speak, sort of thing.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I mean, you have been out with Sean in these meetings, right?
Yeah, I like in the Discord meeting or whatever.
In the real world version of that.
Yes, I have met him in real life. Yes.
Yeah, and so I mean, of course, I have never seen you in person.
Right.
I could not have told that you are avoiding people if you don't have to. I mean, that's not how I would have classified you, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess people would think I'm not even introverted if they saw me. It's just, but
Yeah.
I know how to. Let's say I know how to blend into the system, so to speak. I'm not like stuck in this like, I'm not like, I'm not like just straight up autistic, like or whatever. But like, I don't know how else to say it. Like,
yeah. I mean, and also like I don't put too much value in these personality tests, but I will say that they are consistent, at least for me. Like I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done these tests like in 3 times or so, and with some years gaps in between, and it always comes out as the same letters.
Yeah, I would say so. I've done it multiple times. I'm always INTJ. Like, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know, but I a lot of people are like, well, it's it's bunk and it's this and it's so I don't know, whatever. It's fun to. It's like astrology to me or something. Like it's fun to think, oh, I'm a Scorpio or I'm a Gemini, but I don't. It's not like I'm basing my whole life around.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a Scorpio, and I would say I'm a typical Scorpio from what I
so am I. I am really a Scorpio. Yes, I am probably as well.
When is your birthday again?
November the 3rd.
Okay, happy birthday as an afterthought. I'm November 19th, so.
Oh, happy birthday as well! Not too long ago either.
Yeah. So actually, I have some standard questions that I could have started with.
Sure.
That I came up with, and I like this one that I have asked both of my previous guests. And the question is, what would a hater say about you?
Oh boy, what would I? I don't know. I don't know if this is a good one, but I have been told I'm a very intense person before.
What does that mean?
It's like I'm very. I guess it means like when I like something, like I kind of, it's kind of like being autistic. Like you're very obsessed with something, and like I go all in. Like when I like math, it's like I want to talk about it. I'm very intense about talking about it. Like,
but what does it mean to be intense about math? I mean, or why is it? Why would a hater say that? What is the negative?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the best example. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I've always kind of taken it to be like not a compliment. So like, I guess, but
I think that's on you.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what else a hater would say about me. I don't know. Like I don't know. I've never had somebody like say to my face, you're an asshole or something. I mean, maybe I have. I don't know.
No, I'm me neither, and I'm sure you are not. I would like to say that in this video, like from how I know you and from how some people will now get the impression of you if they listen to this recording.
Yeah.
I think you are like, as I know you, you are usually a little bit more cynical. You are not as cynical in this conversation.
That's probably,
or maybe you changed. I don't know.
No, I'm probably a little more cynical than otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I could imagine that some people would take a certain level of cynicism as a negative and say, "Oh, this guy is always a negative."
Yes.
So, I don't want to say that you are, but
no, I 100% agree with that. Actually, I 100% agree with that. No, I'm not. I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of negative, it is also if I'm online on X or whatever, there's this thing where I have the feeling I'm like when I comment, then it tends to be a little bit of a critical voice, right? Somebody says something and I say, no, actually, if you think about it this way, then it's actually not like this. And I want to reduce the amount of quotes unquote negativity in this sense, right? So I want to learn to find a way to be online and talk about, for example, technical stuff, and not have it just be one correction after the other. I have the feeling there's only like asking questions and correcting. And these are the sort of two modes in which people talk about math, for example, online. And it's not very pleasant. So I can understand if somebody is more groupthink inclined, well, quotes unquote, like has a more of a feminine like vibe, or wants to enjoy feminine ways of like coming together, then this constant critical back and forth is not super appealing, and I don't even like it in myself. I don't like the fact that when I talk about math, then it's I raise my voice when I see like an error, but if you just do that, then you're always criticizing and you are basically negative. So I don't know how to improve on this much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people are like that. I mean, there's different extreme. I mean, I think the balanced way to go about it is just to be professional, right? Like if you see something that's you deem as incorrect, you just point it out, but politely, or professionally or whatever. I mean, the other extreme is like you're somebody like Richard Stallman, and you're like, excuse me, what you're referring to as an integral is in fact, what I like to call, X, Y, what, it's some like rant about something, and it's just like unnecessary detail that nobody really needs to, like, even if it's technically correct. Like, I don't know, there's a point where human beings are able to parse like context, like,
Yeah.
You don't need to be so verbose, but I understand the desire to be, etc.
Yeah, but then, so one reason why I think, when I think about it, one reason why I also seek out new topics to learn is that it's much more fruitful for me if I actually become the question asker. And if I hang around in a chat where you are in the top 5 people who understand it, that's actually a negative situation, because then you are just you get maybe frustrated with people saying wrong things, even if they don't want to, even if they're just learning. And then you feel like, should I not correct this? Or should I just be passive? Should I wait for people to ask me questions? So, yeah, and in this way, like, it's the best way then is to become the person who does not know, ask questions, but then you have to stomach people being fairly rude. Especially, I feel like in math, it's even worse than in physics, let's say. I have the feel like maybe this is a isolated impression. I don't know where it generalizes, but I have the feeling that in math, and especially if you go like computer science foundations, people are very cold in somehow. Like in my studies, in my math physics studies, it was more like collegial, where you don't understand something and then you go to somebody and they explain it in a nice way. And in foundations, they are like just pointing out, oh, you fell into this trap. Actually, it's like this. Da, da, da. I don't know if this is my impression that math interactions are not as pleasant as other subjects. What do you think about this?
I mean, I think that, I think it can happen in any field personally. I mean, I've definitely seen egotism, amongst other mathematicians or math people, because people get very intense about this stuff. I mean, I've just never really been like that. I mean, look, like, everybody has an ego. Everybody wants to feel good or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't know. But like, I haven't really... I don't know. I would think almost like the opposite to some extent, because it's like you think if you're like some guy studying, like, I don't know, large cardinals and set theory, it's like, first of all, what is there, like 10 people alive who give a shit about it? Like, it's like, you think you would be happy to have somebody interested in, what you're doing, or like, higher topos or whatever I mean, to come out and be like, oh, well, you're an idiot. And, you need to, I don't really see...
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I don't think large cardinals are that fringe.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to
theory maybe more.
Yeah. But still, I mean,
it's relatively fringe. Okay, it's more fringe than stochastic processes, I guess. But I think these people, especially the INTJ kind of people, they just also don't understand that they are maybe not as nice. Maybe they, or maybe they are more also like me, who is like, oh, I see a problem, this is wrong, and then I'm thinking, I should correct this. Either I say nothing, and then I'm like locking myself out of the conversation, or I point it out, but then I come across, so I notice this, and I need to sugarcoat it, which is also awkward. That has to be done. And and I think some people are extremely bad at sugarcoating and sandwiching nice factual nice. So yeah, it's just something I observed. I like I don't feel math forums are as warm as physics forums from my experience. But maybe this is also just a bias. Maybe it is because I studied physics first, and it was more in a uni context where I was with people live, and you talk different live. And when I learned math, it's also at university, but more also on my own. Maybe it's just the reason. But for people listening to this conversation, I would really like to hear their impressions. If my impression is wrong there or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the internet and anonymity like creates that also. It's just like people are are gonna say things that are more blunt or whatever. So I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Like I mean, I guess in real life experiences have mostly been positive. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I've had some professors even or some academic experiences where like in person where the person was kind of like full of themselves or whatever. But I don't even know if it's a malice. It's like sometimes I think it's just like straight up autism. Like they don't understand. They're not.
Yeah, exactly. But that's basically what I'm also saying. Like,
yeah, like
I don't even think that people try to be mean.
Yeah.
Or like just be cold, but they don't even know how to package it in a way that it comes across nicer. And it's kind of sad. I would love to be in a more, maybe we're romanticizing this, but if you read up on these communities of scientists, in the early 20s or something, where you had like these groups where really like high caliber academics were working together, like Wiener Kreis, or even like it always looks like, for example, the quantum mechanics guys, as if this were like just 50 people who were just writing letters among themselves, and all of them were super smart and super famous in the end. I cannot really explain how that worked. Do you know what I mean? Like if you look at like this Solovay conference or whatever, Dirac and Heisenberg and Einstein and these kind of things, it looks like, they were like, somehow there were like 30 people. They are the people, all the theorems were named after. They were also the people who are on the conference.
Yes.
And we are aware of all the letters that they wrote to each other. It seems like they were like just a bunch of smart people who were like a community, and all of them were super important. And nowadays you have like tens of thousands of people, and
Right.
all of them make smaller contributions and are not like as close. So it's kind of weird for me. I don't know why that is.
Well, I think you pointed out the fundamental issue, which I would have risen if not. I mean, I think even 100 years ago, the pinnacle of academic knowledge to get there was a lot easier in a sense. It still work, but like the communities were much smaller. Information traveled much slower. Right? Like, I mean, what was it? Poincaré was the last great generalist, or whatever. This sort of thing. Or I mean, I guess Johnny von Neumann or whatever. But like, so now, I mean, so many more people want to be an academic, and there's so much more. I mean, the bar. I mean, I remember hearing, like, I think it was like this year or last year for PhD applications, some professor was saying like some of the portfolios of the people getting into these programs, it's like they were like 100 times better than what the professors were when they applied for PhD programs back in the 60s or whatever, the 50s or 70s, whatever it was. The bar just gets raised every year, and I mean, I think it will continue to be so. I mean, I don't have much. I don't know if we've really touched on this, but I don't have much positive hope actually for general academia going forward. Like I think academia is a crumbling system at this point. It's
through just as like I want to get to the academia, that's interesting to me, but regarding the thing with the students have more credentials nowadays, but this sort of like on the nose, this runs counter to the claim that we had before, where we said, there were fewer people and they did more important work. And of course, you said that maybe it is now harder somehow, but and I know this argument, but I'm also not fully convinced because things are easier as an afterthought. And if you're back in this time, it might not be. Like, for example, I know that 150 years ago, physicists were not all learning about matrices in uni, right?
Okay.
There were linear transformations, but it was not packaged in matrices. This conception of we do groups, we do rings, comes out of this around Noether and around Hilbert. So this is just 130, 140 years old. And
Right.
so you must think that these things had to be developed as well. And so I'm not 100% sure that it was really easier to find all these things, because they also knew less. Things were less cleaned up. So you could also argue that back then they learned stuff that they maybe, it was a lot of memory waste, like how to compute logarithm tables or whatever, because they didn't have computers before the 30s. And so, like, I'm not 100% sure that it was easier to find these things just because there was less knowledge. I think they also had a more limited scope of knowledge to work on. I mean, I don't want to commit to this, but I'm not sure if things were harder or easier to discover back then. It could also be that there was just a different, like, there's a counter hypothesis that there was just a different learning culture and different interaction with professors than the sort of systematic industrialized academia now, which brings us, like, you can respond to that or go on and talk about how this ties in with your academia thesis.
Yeah, no. I mean, I agree. Well, I think, I mean, I can't be certain. I mean, I'm not 100, but I mean, I think that what you're saying, at least in the, I mean, the first part about if it's easy or not, I don't know. I might still debate it, but I won't go on and on about it. But I mean, I think the part about like more the cultural aspects, I do think that, excuse me, I think that that's, yeah, probably quite different than today. I mean, I feel like modern, I mean, academia back then was much more serious about intellectual pursuit and scholarship, really. Personally, I mean, I don't know how it is in Europe, but today I feel like most of modern academia in the United States is completely commercialized. I mean, it's all bureaucracy. I mean, there are now more what do you call, like, administrators than there are tenured. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's not even a place of learning, really. It's just all a business now. I mean, it is.
Can you elaborate what do you mean then scholarship? Is this, are you talking about the Renaissance man, the universal thinker, or what do you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the culture of scholarship might have been different. I mean, I think, I'm not saying it doesn't exist anymore, but like what was accepted, and there was more freedoms, there was less red tape and bureaucracy back then. So you could be more eccentric. You could be, today it's like if you say the wrong thing or you do that right, you're under some scrutiny. Everybody's walking on eggshells to like what they can and can't do. Where I feel like 100 years ago, processes were simpler. There was, people weren't afraid of getting lawsuits and this and that. There's just like so much more bureaucracy in general, and I think that seeps into the academic culture personally.
Yeah, I mean, one of my hot takes is that maybe academia would be better if it was more elitist, meaning not everybody would actually think about studying. Right? If it was not the case that everybody thinks they need to get a college degree, then the flavor of these institutions would also be different. It would not be as much a job education.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, I guess, have you seen that in Europe? I mean, do you think like the universities have turned into vocational schools more so than?
I mean, in the long run, in general, yes, for sure.
Yeah,
like if you look at like Humboldt and in the Prussian conception, back in the days where only rich people went to university, was a different way of learning, and then you had the introduction of everybody goes to school. It relates to what we talked about before, right? 60% of the population was just farmers or whatever. Then clearly they have a different need, and the more you turn into a service industry, the more you put in the industrial work to the third world. You don't need then these sort of job educations anymore, and everything becomes much more head focused, brainy, and then suddenly everybody goes to university. And this happened in the US just as in Europe. Europe is better in the regard that you do not pay for university, at least on the continent. But the idea of people of all classes going to uni to get a better job prospect is definitely there and was there for a long time. And so yeah, this is the same here as well. I mean, you have in the US, I think it's a particularly bad situation with this slippery slope of the universities trying to make money, and then they structure the whole university apparatus to get more money out of it. Like I've seen long ago some YouTube videos on how this is like a sort of reinforcing process of how this develops. But even if here the universities are basically state funded, this process of them becoming job churning out people for jobs is also there. And relating back to what we talked about the technological development, really, I mean, we will have to see what happens. I think it's so hard to make any like accurate prediction. And if we're cynic, then we can say it's probably not going to get much better. Although, I mean, my only wild pill is that I at the moment have a lot of fun learning, and I still appreciate that there are universities there with students. Maybe they were better before, but even if I complain about cold-hearted discussions on these technical topics, I'm still grateful that this exists, and we are rich enough in the world for this to exist.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I mean, I think, I think the internet has also just revolutionized learning, and I mean that's fairly obvious. But like, I think the largest universities will continue to exist, like your Princeton or your whatever, your Yale or whatever, the big universities, because they have so much money and endowment and all this stuff. But they may have to, maybe they will go to like a more elitist system, where there's only like a guild of academic. I mean, to be honest, have you watched? Sorry, this is kind of random. Have you watched the YouTube channel City Math Tutoring? Have you seen that guy?
I don't think so. What does he do?
Yeah, you should check him out. He's an interesting. He's a very eccentric math YouTuber, and he runs a math tutoring business, and he kind of has these YouTube channels about it. But he wears a suit. He's one of these guys. He like wears a suit every day of his life, and he like writes with a quill pen. I think you see where this is going. Like he's very. And he talks in this like very like British esoteric accent, and I kind of agree with him to some extent, because he was talking about like when he was in school how he imagined going to university was going to be like this guild of intellectual, ivory tower like pipe smoking people, yeah. Right? It's like you go to university and it's nothing like that today. You have this this vision of what university and intellectualism should be, but it I don't know, it just kind of harkens back to.
And so what does he do with that viewpoint? Does he complain about it? Does he make videos about
it kind of talks about how he's not such a fan of like modern academia as well, and like he's a very old school kind of guy. He makes other videos about like capitalism and these types of topics. Like,
I might like this. What is the name of this guy?
Yeah, I think it's Math City CITY Tutoring.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Check him out. I mean, if you don't like him, it's fine. It's not like, but
I'm always like when I'm chatting with Sean, I'm always like making fun. I'm not like in an amicable way. We're making fun of the math sorcerer.
Oh yeah. Well, that's another. Yeah.
I mean, I really, I don't even know how I feel about it, but it's kind of funny that this like really like intense. I mean, I have to say, old man who is like really like does this pep talks. I made a like 2 months ago or so. I made a fun 2-minute video where I titled it "Math Sorcerer like inspirational video." Have you seen it?
I think I did. I think
with the Wiener process that I pick out.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah.
This is like I would say this is like I like the channel. I mean, it's a little bit tongue in cheek if I say this is one of the better math channels, but it is just he seems authentic in a way, but it's also kind of silly. Like Yeah, when he's repeating himself always, and so it's weird, and we do not need to get into the book smelling and these kind of things.
Yeah, no, I mean, all I'll say about him is I think he started out really good, but I kind of feel like he, for lack of a better word, he kind of sold out in a sense, right? You know, I mean, I think, you know, perhaps he, and I can't totally blame people, you know, okay, it's money and all this, but
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, sold out in the sense, right, that you find your niche in a way, right?
Right,
it's a weird niche in this case, like this, you know, everything, you just have to concentrate.
Yeah, you just have to be he's like a Tony Robbins kind of guy, like everything's got to be like a motivational speech or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of weird.
It is also like he has like this weirdness about him that if you meet him in real life, it's you would be a little bit you know, it would be a little bit strange, but
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it would
his intensity. You know, I just because I have it on my mind because I had this conversation yesterday with Cape Fury. He like he makes if I understand it correctly, he makes like 200-300 bucks a month on YouTube, and he's on an up curve, so he has like 10K subscribers, and it goes up. And he's thinking of you know, he's also applying to postdocs, but he also, you know, it seems to me like he's not hell-bent on staying in academia, but he wants to still be connected.
Right.
In the best case scenario, make a living off of YouTube. And then, you know, I conversed with him about the fact that you want to, like, what I like about him is he makes like videos where he literally talks about cohomology theory, and it's like the vast majority of people who watch that will not understand it. But then he also makes very clickbaity thumbnail videos where he just reviews for fun bad proofs or something, and this is what actually gets the views. So there's a dichotomy. So if you want to succeed, of course, you're like drawn into making these more sillier videos. And as somebody who takes it a little bit more serious, I'm not really for it, but I still encourage him to actually pursue what he does, and he must do what you have to do what you have to do. I would, however, say you should not like cross the barrier that we talked about, like Sabine Hossenfelder, for example, who does now daily videos, reacts to just anything. Because like years ago, like 5 years ago, she made like really structured, thought out, like quantum mechanics explainer videos, which were like 15 minutes long, and she was explaining a technical concept, still on a far too lower level for what I would enjoy watching. But it was like good technical videos. But now she's literally every day making a video responding to whatever is happening on Twitter and whatever article is being discussed. And this, and of course, you know, she's infamous for like, no, I don't want to get like, I don't want to make a position, but if you watch other physics YouTubers, she has so many opponents by now, because she's like so like she makes this very like strong takes, and she talks like she's convinced of this, and she has like, you can say like academic haters, several of those, and I would say she does this on purpose. Like she went into this direction. This is also sort of audience capture. And you also don't really want to go down in this this sort of rabbit hole where you know, just become like this machine that works, but it's kind of, you cross the boundary there.
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with her. I haven't watched a lot of her videos, but I have heard, excuse me, I have heard from some other people. Yeah, initially, like same thing you're saying, basically, her content was of much higher caliber prior, and then now it sounds like it's just some kind of gossip or whatever it is. But,
yeah, I mean, she responds to technical artists. You know, Quantum Magazine. She would respond to these kind of things, but she also takes on things where I don't want to say shouldn't have takes, but which don't really fit into the niche, like talking about like capitalism and academia. You know, as I said, I don't want to actually take a position there. I myself am a technical YouTuber, and I also talk about the development of where things are going. But I am like, I don't think I have any critics who would not engage with me because of my positions, whereas she's really like, no, this is my position and this is correct, and everybody else is just wrong. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just a much more amicable person in this regard. Yeah. Okay. This is just an observation of audience capture.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Though. I understand. Yeah. I mean, it's you have to pick. I mean, you have to pick. I mean, everyone has to evolve over time as well, I guess, to some extent. But like, you know, I don't know. People end up at like the Math Sorcerer or whatever. They end up in these like weird niches, and it's just like, what is this? Like, you know, I don't know. Like, you know.
Staring in the camera.
Yeah, I don't.
And have you seen he recently cut his hair, which is crazy because he was that guy, which is like, this is really wild.
Did you see that? Like he's making these, like he has like a Filipino girlfriend now, and he's like making videos about like how.
I saw he has a secondary. I only saw this the other day that he has a secondary channel. Yeah,
it's really freaking weird, but I mean, whatever. You know.
Yeah.
Oh
God. Okay, so are there some more things you want to like give some hot take on? Because I might not have you on for a while, or maybe I will. I don't actually know. Like, you know, I'm looking for the conversation partners for this podcast. I have a little bit of a roster that I will roll out in the next 1-2 months.
Okay.
But I'm trying to find a little bit more coherence in my podcast and maybe talk about things. So maybe actually, in case you feel like you enjoy, like in this video we were sort of non-technical. We were talking about academia and we're talking about physics and math, but not like technical things. In case you would enjoy to like talk about a paper or something like that, right? So we could read a paper together and discuss it or something like that, which is on the intersection. I invite you or also my anybody or my viewers to offer themselves up, because I would like to actually do a sort of chit chat, shit posting about actual technical papers that come out and be in the know about what's going on in technical fields. And I would like to have a podcast on that. And because, you know, I'm in the last podcast, I'm talking about more or less the same thing. I'm very interested in the AI impact on academia, these kind of things, but I cannot talk about this forever without being super repetitive. So yeah, this is just an invitation in case you say, hey, this is a cool paper, I would like to read it or talk about it with me. Then you can come on again and I will also read it and we can philosophize about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested. We could talk about that. I mean, I'm open to pretty much whatever. So, I mean, I appreciate, you having me here.
Yeah, no, I love it. Maybe I invite some other people from the gang.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, in this case, if you come across some paper where you think I would understand reading it and maybe even get something out of it myself, then just let me know. Write me in the Discord, and this goes out to everybody else who feels like this would do. Like, if it's like a 7-page paper, so not too long, that I can actually do some of those per week. Yeah. Some last questions. Do you have what are actually your favorite books that are not academic? I mean, it can be philosophy or history. This is also something I care about, but not math or physics or computer science books. What are you into?
Well, certainly I've had a budding interest in general philosophy. I mean, I to be honest, like I haven't read all that much. I mean, I've been most interested. I don't know if this guy. I've been most interested in like Gödel incompleteness theorem or like Gödel, Escher, Bach, or these sorts of things. I also have another of Hofstadter's book.
Okay. I would consider this semi-technical though, right?
Okay, so something. Okay. It's like just like fiction. You want me to talk about fiction, or
you can also say that you have not read any like non-technical book for 5 years. I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, for that. No, I mean it's been a while. I've tried to start reading more fiction. Like I could tell you what I'm trying to read. I've wanted to read like Moby. I mean they're classics mostly, like Moby Dick and Dracula. I started reading. I started reading this really weird book. It's I don't know what you call it. It's like it's like a World War II realistic fiction book where like aliens start invading the world during World War II, and then like Hitler teams up with Winston Churchill and like even the Jews to fight aliens. Like I know it sounds like ridiculous, but it's actually not that bad.
Okay, it sounds
Like,
a little bit like Watchmen, like that you have a common enemy and the human.
Yeah, I guess it's just like a what if scenario. I don't know. I kind of like these weird things. Like, I don't know. It just piqued my interest for some strange reason.
Yeah. So, like, is it like Men in the High Castle? This kind of book?
Something like that. Yeah, it's by like Henry Turtledove. It's a pretty popular book. I saw somebody posting about it in like Lit or something or one of these places, and I just I don't know. It's just like, this looks interesting. Maybe I should read it.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Dracula. This is a short book, right? So
yeah, it's quite short. I just haven't. But I read Frankenstein back in high school. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like when I was a kid. I actually have had a talk, a referat on Frankenstein, which is kind of cool. I can recommend that one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Dracula because I recently I have not read that myself, but I recently watched a video where somebody mentioned it and mentioned the fact that early on the Dracula apparently is also relevant now again because it is literally about the old and the new and technological developments and this kind of thing, where the Romanian Dracula represents on the out, and apparently there's a bunch of allegories or whatever about how, like, reflections on the world where you have the new technology and how that actually changes everything, changes how the world works, which is related to what we talked about. And they emphasize the fact that early on, this is an old book, but it was just when Polaroid came out. And so in the beginning of the book, Polaroid is mentioned, which feels wrong because it feels like this book is older, but actually you have this like Polaroid camera in there.
Yeah, that can certainly date a book, I suppose. I'm sorry, what is this? Is this like related to Dracula, or is this something else?
This is the original Dracula.
Oh, the original. Okay.
Yeah.
Why are they mentioning Polaroid? Like, the novel was written in like the 19th century. No, I mean.
Yeah, but apparently, like let me check this.
Is this all right?
Dracula came out in. It looks like Bram Stoker's Dracula was published in 1897.
Okay, yeah,
and Polaroid was already out there. There's this fun fact, you might have heard this before, but did you know that Nintendo is older than Hitler?
Yes, I do know that. They were a card company. Yeah, but it is still kind of weird.
Yeah, and it fits very well because it's roughly also the time. I think these two are even before Dracula and Polaroid.
Yeah. I mean they go back to at least, I guess, the 20s maybe. I forget what the cards they produced were called, but
well, maybe I can look it up, but no, I think it's even earlier. So Nintendo founded in 1889.
1889. Okay, yeah, that's jeez.
And so it's before Hitler was born, literally. And speaking of, these are like famous sort of mindfuck kind of things, but there's also this fact that the shark is older than the rings of Saturn.
The shark? Who's
the shark? The species of sharks exists for more millions of years than the rings of Saturn.
Like fossilized pieces of shark?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Since when the species exists, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so when you can date them back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get too tangential here, but it's funny. It's interesting that you brought that up because I've recently been very into cosmology and astronomy. I actually bought a 10-inch telescope. I'm waiting for it to
arrive. Interesting.
Yeah, that's become like really like a big thing for me, but it's kind of cool. I don't know. That stuff kind of always does. I mean, I don't know. I don't mean to sound like some pop sci guy, but like, I mean, it really does like blow my mind. Like a lot of cosmological things, like things that have existed for billions of years, and these, the sun has been around for whatever 4.6 billion years. I mean, it's just unbelievable when you think about some of these things.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I saw a Kurzgesagt video recently. You know Kurzgesagt, right? Where they also mentioned that I'm not at all into astronomy. I did like as a kid was a little bit into it and wrote about it.
Yeah.
And wrote my school thesis on it, as I
Okay.
revealed in my K-theory interview. Yeah, before I went to uni. Before I went into physics, I actually read and wrote something about astronomy. And in this Kurzgesagt video that was released recently, I think it says the title is something about astronomy in crisis, but in a positive way. They point out that apparently in the last 15 years there were a bunch of discoveries where you have just inconsistencies with the predictions, like several different things where it's actually positive, because if there's something unresolved, then you can be much more creative in finding good answers. And these are things like the expansion of the universe being very accurately measured in different ways and different numbers coming out. And then there's something about basically the lack of isotropy of the observed universe. So the fact that there are some clusters of galaxies and some empty parts in space where they don't really understand why this is the case. And also with the Webb telescope, this golden telescope that they set up 4 years ago, there are some observations about some stars which are much older but much further developed than they should be according to our theory. So you see some very far out early history stars which are, however, older than you would expect. If you say, our current theory said stars developed around this time, so and so million years, and things just don't match up, and so there's a lot of potential. And of course, dark energy and these kind of things is also still open. So yeah, it is weird, and always with these Kurzgesagt things, it can actually re-excite you about I have this thing where I never got into it, but I would want to, like, learning about plants, photosynthesis. I think this is so cool and so complicated. It's not just math and physics. There are some cool things or the immune system. They love to talk about the immune system and Kurzgesagt. It is crazy and complex and cool thing. So I fully understand that you have the secret astronomy hobby.
Yeah. Are we? How much do we have? Like a certain set limit of time here?
I don't think so. I was going to slowly run it out. Are you in a
No, I'm not. I'm in no particular rush. I just wanted to maybe continue discussing unless you have to go. I mean,
I do not have to go. I don't have any plans anymore. We are reaching the 2-hour marks. I don't want to bore you. That's also one of my motivations.
No, I was just curious to hear. It made me think when you were talking, what your views are on some of this. But from a more serious, or since you are a physicist, I mean, more serious perspective of some of these almost like science fiction things with Boltzmann brains and you extrapolate 10 to the 100 years, heat death of the universe. I mean, have you ever thought of these things? If you have any opinions of them? I know you said you didn't really ever think about much of this stuff. I mean, I've been reading a lot about actually this stuff just for the hell of it. Again, I try not to do things in a pop sci way. I mean, trying to understand them as rigorously as I can. But do you have any opinions about these sorts of things, like the hard?
I have if I hear about these things, if they come up somewhere, I have tangential thoughts. In my head, the Boltzmann brain is a pure thought experiment. I don't think that that processing thing is out there somewhere with gigantic magnitude, and everything is like gases that are light years apart, and it forms something which could be called a brain. I don't consider that as to be out there just from a feely perspective. So I don't take that seriously as a thing there, but as a thought experiment. The Boltzmann brain thing. I will not like explain it now to the viewers, but you can look it up, and you can pause the video and look it up if you want to see. I think the Boltzmann brain is mostly like brought up in also in relation to sort of brain in a wet or simulation hypothesis ish like thought experiment, right? Where you think, hey, could it be that you don't actually exist for 20 years, but in reality you're just a fabricated brain, like a brain which fabricates its history, and all these kind of thoughts are brought up as sort of counter examples. I am thinking not so much about astronomy, but I'm thinking a lot about skepticism. I would consider myself a very genuine skeptic, old Pyrrhean philosophical position on epistemology, where you basically say you cannot know nothing. I take that seriously, and I usually try to find out where people cope and sneak in their axioms, just to make sure that people realize you're actually doing postulation, and even if it's practical and makes sense that you make assumptions to get somewhere with your thoughts, at least be aware that you do so. In this regard, this Boltzmann brain piques my interest a little bit, because you can do like this sort of counter examples, this brain in a what counter examples. What was the other thing that you mentioned there?
Just like I guess heat death of the universe, like very large time extrapolation, like, we're talking like 10 to the 100, 10 to the Google years from now. I mean, apparently the universe.
What would be your question there? Like,
well, I don't know. It's just, I guess I'd have to formulate something specific. I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, thoughts on if you've ever thought about things like far future cosmology, but I guess you said like this hasn't been so much of an interest of yours.
I mean, not astronomy in a technical sense. I find that like whenever you hear some numbers, and when you see visualization of galaxies and clusters and so on, then it always like intuitively feels very unlikely that we're the only ones out there, right? Just because like when you have these pictures where you zoom out and there's more and more galaxies and so on, and you think like, we happen to be here in the world, and we speak from conscious being to conscious being. If there's so much space out there, it makes sense that this would, if it was possible once, it would be possible another time, right? So this is a thought that crosses my mind, just from like, these numbers are so giant that you cannot really comprehend them anyway. But my intuition is like, probably there's another world out there where there's at least some animal-like creatures out there, like at least on the level of fish. This is one thought I have. The far future. Do you know? I'm at least since 2018, and I mentioned this on my channel a couple of times, into Nick Land a little bit.
What's the very last thing you said? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Nick Land.
I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
This is the philosopher who is an inspiration for like accelerationism and these kind of things.
Okay.
So like he worked in the 90s mostly, and there's where his strong writing comes from. But this is like a philosopher guy who pointed out that there is something, there's a strong anthropocentric bias in philosophizing, right? Yeah. So where philosophies that people come up with, which are often, of course, motivated by the meaning of life, and so it automatically concerns humans. But if you look at the world, of course, the time where humans exist is just a blip, a few couple of thousands of years. And he had this sort of project where he tries to think of the world without putting any emphasis on this short blip of human life, and not making this the center stage. Sort of, if you read this, then it sounds a little bit more coherent than what I'm explaining now. But he's basically trying to like a logician in a sense, who goes to like first principles and writes down axioms. He he makes an effort to not put us so much at the center of everything. And there's something to it, and it definitely comes together with thinking the far past and the far future, because within another blip, as Carl Sagan said, at least we will have evolved away to a completely different species, and then a little bit further we are something completely different, and eventually there's no humans anymore.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like even in the Time Machine, this old book from 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, I love the Time Machine. I love the movie. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, even there, the author already conceptualizes going, like, imagining going so further out that the evolution has like molded
Regressed.
you again and again, and yeah, this is. I mean, I think it's worth considering. Again, if you are mostly into philosophy, to seek for what is a good life, what to do, what is the human, as Kant says, then maybe this is not so relevant. But there is legitimacy in contemplating, I think, the world after the human. So, what do you think? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've in recent time, I've I guess I'm more of an armchair, but I have been thinking about like extraterrestrial life and stuff like this. I mean, not in like, again, like I'm seriously thinking, well, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with things like the Drake equation and all this, and that's very controversial because there's like a couple probabilities in there that we really don't know. I mean, I guess the short of it is I would lean. I actually really don't know. Like, I want to lean towards that, like, at least the observable universe is. I mean, the first question is the universe infinite in extent? And I don't know. I'm going to slightly speak out of my ass here, but like, right, like there's this constant omega. And I think like supposedly the belief is that if it's equal to 1, I think the universe is like homeomorphic to like R3 or whatever, or it's flat effectively. So I think like all the measurements we have like point it arbitrarily close to 1, which suggests that the universe is infinite in extent. Although I'm kind of speaking at, this is just things I've been reading. And so that brings up the question as well, is there finitely much matter, or is matter infinite? And if matter is infinite, well, then that opens up that really changes it, because it's like, now it's pretty much a guaranteed that life exists. I mean,
I think this is. I know where you're getting, but I think there's also some dangers with some of these infinity arguments, where
for sure.
It's similar to, like, just the simplest example. Just because you have a countable infinity, you can also come up with infinitely many distinct patterns of how you can arrange, for example, the natural numbers.
Right.
But there are still patterns which are left out, right? So, for example, you take, you need to take all the numbers, and then you flip like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you flip them, and you have like a permutation, and then you do another permutation where you flip 1 and 3 and 4 and 6, and so you flip them around, and so you have a bunch of ways in which you reorder the natural numbers. So you have infinitely many permutations of this line, of the ordinals, if you will, but you're still left out other combinations. And so there is like there's a flaw in this logical argument of saying just because something is infinite, all these combinations and this are there, right? Because it can also be that you have infinitely many things and still miss out on a lot of things. So this is just a mild pushback on doing it too naive with these considerations. Like it repeats itself infinitely many times and it's different every time, does not mean that everything pops up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd buy that. I mean, I think though, like, if it's still. I mean, of course, it would be mind bending if it was infinite in extent. But I mean, even within the observable universe, it does seem likely. Like there has. I mean, I think at least simple life is common. but intelligent life could be extraordinarily rare. It's probably the case.
Yeah,
It's my view.
I mean, my one of my takes that where my interest might stop is things that are beyond the observable universe, that where I cannot even in principle interact with it, interest me less. So for all intents and purposes, the universe of that I would consider of interest to myself is probably restricted to the observable universe. After that, you would need to do some convincing for me to actually ponder and look into it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't have to answer all questions. I don't think I will in my short life.
Nobody may. Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's casually disconnected. I mean, it's totally disconnected from us. We can't, unless there's some absolute insane like revolution in physical travel or something. I mean, like Alcubierre drives or something, or I mean,
assuming that this hypothesis of the observable universe, this construction, this concept is valid, then there is something where we can speak in principle of something beyond it. But then this does not pique my interest as much.
No, I understand. I was just
so isolated.
I was just kind of curious I don't know. It's just stuff I've been reading about, and I mean, I don't mean to. Sorry, it sounds kind of like pop sci, but I don't know. It's just
no. I mean, something similar, which is not like astronomy related, but it's always interesting to me that it feels kind of weird that you are who you are, and you have your first person experience, and there is something funny in that. It seems you can never prove that you're not like alone. you can project, you can only extrapolate that your conscious experience is similar to what somebody else has, or that they even have something like you, right? This is kind of weird that we are so like boxed into our mind.
Well, I think isn't it an unsolved problem as to what consciousness is? It's like an open problem.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I am actually like a colleague of mine. He has a reading group even on some Discord channel, which is all about like actually reading up on neuroscientists and these kind of things. I just don't have the time. I don't really want to take the time to read up on books on neuroscience and consciousness. But it's really interesting. Like sometimes they have this weekly, and sometimes I jump in and listen to what they're talking about and what paper they're reviewing and so on and so forth. And it's funny to see that there's really academics who are like very seriously discuss like to what extent animals are conscious or not, and if you can make any like experiments in this regard.
Yeah, right? I understand.
Do we have a good theory of pain? Do animals have pain? And there are some interesting consensus that they say basically are fish are quite different than mammals in this regard, and so on and so forth, based on a sort of biological investigation on how the interiors function, the neurons function, and these kind of things.
Yeah, no, I think that sort of stuff is interesting as well.
I'm more interested, like I have a tangential interest in that, but mostly because I'm interested in how intelligence functions for a while now, and this is also a reason why like I would like to understand better a good notion of information, if it's mathematizable, if it could put into mathematical terms, that would be even better. But I would like to understand what does it mean to have like a creative thought, to have like an insight, to make new math. How does it work? For like, it could be that we will eventually get there. We have machines which really have like creative insight, and then that would be cool, because then I can look at the implementation of these things and see, oh, how was that actually possible? What is it? What sort of extrapolation of what you already have in memory is it? And I would like to understand that also from an information theoretical standpoint. Like I have, like, let me mention something which is related to that. I've talked about this before, but in my wiki, I have all these entries, and I have basically a knowledge graph of nodes, and they are related to each other, like a Wikipedia. They are related links, right?
Yeah.
And I have created it in a way that whenever I open a page, actually in the background it computes the knowledge graph. It computes like the 50 next nearest neighbor articles for my own notes, and it copies it to the clipboard, right?
Oh,
It's a little bit like this crypto attacks where you paste the wrong Bitcoin address and then they put it in and
yeah,
send
you
it
get
to somewhere else. Yeah, so I do that with myself. I paste the context from my notebook to my clipboard automatically, so that at any time I can dump it to an LLM and have context there. This is my idea. Okay, and please.
No, I was just going. Go ahead.
And so yeah, because then if I have a question, for example, about, let's say, a Brownian motion, I can go
Yeah.
on my page, search Brownian motion. I open my Brownian motion node I have, and then it has like a context of like 30 pages on my own notes. So it captures what I already know about the subject to a degree, and then I can just copy and paste it. I don't even have to do the copying. This is automatic. I just paste it into the LLM, and then it has a context, and then I ask a question, and then it will hopefully answer the question in my own language, in my own notation, and so on. This is the idea, right?
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I already have that. And now the thing is, and how it relates to this sort of intelligence and information theory and maybe consciousness. So now I'm thinking about, okay, it's actually a little bit superfluous that I copy all of these pages. It has a very repeating title section, reference section. There's a bunch of sludge there. There's a bunch of things that, ChatGPT does not need to know how covariance is defined because it has seen it a billion times in all the different textbooks and blog articles and so on. So it knows that. So this is actually like sort of redundant. I do not have my Brownian motion article will point to standard a standard Gaussian, and the standard Gaussian will explain covariance somewhere in my notes, and I get into the clipboard. But this is like redundant information, or at least it knows already these kind of things. It would actually be much smarter to only feed the machine, the AI, what high surprisal, basically what is actually like high information from an information theoretical standpoint, right? You can argue like that. It makes sense to feed it the context which is not obvious, which is not just the average from all the textbooks. So if I work on something and I have like a particular insight and say, I can combine Brownian motion and Wiener measures. I have an insight where I connect it with homotopy groups somehow, and then I would rather trigger the LLM to think about this connection, understand this connection, and work with me on this, and instead of posting it basic stuff for probability theory. And so I would like to think about what is actually the best information that I work out of my notes to improve the output of the LLM, to see what I mean, right? So I think there's the actual information that is relevant is much less than just all the notes on the things that it already knows. And I think creativity has a lot to do with actually going having new insights, forming new connections, seeing new parallels between new things, and not just sticking and reinforcing what is already there. This is the opposite of creativity. So I would like to actually formalize this and actually take my notes and isolate together with the LLM what is surprising about this notebook for the LLMs and sort of read this out and connect this somehow to clever thinking, intelligence. So these are some things that are in my mind. They are not necessarily, they are very technical and computable, and they are not necessarily out there consciousness talk, but these are the things that are in my head at the moment.
Is this been, I guess, the biggest thing you're working on right now? Are you reading? Have you been interested in any particular academic subject, or is it all a lot of LLMs and ML and statistical stuff? Or
well, it is not. I mean, I would not call it the biggest thing I'm working on. But I have my wiki since many years. I have at the beginning of the year integrated a llama model into it. So I have an LLM running locally, which is like 8 GB, which I never use because it's so small and just not as smart as the subscription I pay for from OpenAI.
Yeah.
But on the side, whenever I feel like it, I develop it. I have now a project coming up which I want to do, where I look at the Wikipedia knowledge graph, and I try to understand the knowledge graph of Wikipedia a little bit better and compare it with my own notebook. So I have downloaded Wikipedia metadata of 30 GB, and I will start working on that and eventually make a YouTube video about it. This is on my mind. I have actually, I personally have looked more into statistics, just basic regression and certain methods, where I'm surprised how much you can get out of this, and this is what I'm learning at the moment. So to answer the question, I'm very statistics built at the moment. I have been motivated to understand intelligence. I'm learning about LLMs, but I'm not, LLMs are just one architecture idea, and I wouldn't mind if something else comes along. I hope my stuff about context that I just described will remain relevant, and I think it will, because we will not really update ourselves unless Neuralink actually works and gets universally adopted.
Yeah.
You will still have to create the context in which you interact with the LLM yourself, and this will help, and is more or less agnostic. So yeah. But I talked for 5 minutes now. This is really about you. So how do you feel about it? Why do you interest? What interests you in this direction?
In terms of LLMs and AI and stuff, or do you mean? I'm sorry.
No, this is my topic at the moment. I don't want to enforce you talking about this necessarily unless it fits you. I know you're working on your cryptography toolbox now.
Yeah, it's a little program. I mean, I'm also trying to do a toy theorem prover in Racket. Yeah, I'm following the little typer. I've been reading that.
Racket, really, I mean, I mentioned this before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, you know what it is I mean, there are many there are many implementations of Scheme, but I mean, Racket is so convenient. They have a language in the little typer which is like Pi, and it does a lot of the sort of dependent types and
really
it's actually it's already built up quite substantially, but I wanted to learn it, see how it's done, and then implement my own little. Again, I use the word toy a lot because what I mean by that is I'm not making this a production level. It's going into a portfolio piece. It's just something I could say, hey, I built this. It's not trying to be like, oh, I'm going to compete with Lean, something, right? But anyway, sorry. So,
one question I would like to ask you, understand better. Actually, I was thinking about this today, and I think you're suitable.
Well, maybe I don't know.
Can you explain why did Lean win out? Is it just the Microsoft funding, or because it seems like people equate theorem prover with Lean, and Lean it came up late, right? It was there were other typed programs and dependent typed languages, but then Lean came on board, but it seems it won out completely. So I wonder why that is, and if you could, to the extent that can you explain the trade-offs and why?
I to be honest, I'm still learning a lot here, but I mean, I could give maybe a slight. I mean, it's funny because when I started getting into this, I don't know, maybe I'm just I don't know what the word is. I'm a rebel without a cause. I tend to want to, when I learn something, even with Lean, for example, I like to first go back and look at what's been done before. I mean, I guess you do that in research. It's what was the first automated theorem prover?
Mm-hmm.
How long have people been there? So I found a lot of these other ones that people never talk about or ever have heard of. It's there's one called PVS. There's another one called Axiom. These are old though. I mean, they were written in the 1990s.
I think I don't know them.
Yeah, nobody ever talks about them. There's an article on Wikipedia that lists a lot of these ATPs, but I feel like I don't know all that much about this still. I'm still very early in learning about this kind of stuff. But like, I think to your point, I think having backing by Microsoft Research probably helped quite a bit. And just, I mean, I guess whoever, I forget who wrote Lean really, but like they probably got a lot of funding. And because the only other major ATP is like cock. It's now called, I guess, rock or something because people got offended or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
there was another one. I think some Haskell-ish one.
Agda,
exactly.
Yeah, Agda. Yeah.
And when I started to read into type theory, I had my type theory phase. I think that was 2013, 14 when I learned about it. When I understood, like when homotopy theory basically came out after this academic year.
Yes.
I read into that. There's a book by, I think, Stevens. No, I don't. Keith or something. Like there's a type theory book, which is basically called, I think, Introduction to Type Theory, something like that. There's a good book. If people want to know, you can ask me in the chat. Which is like on 300 pages, really laying out different types, talking about W types and these kind of things. And I got a little bit into it. I got mostly into Idris. Actually,
I'm familiar with
earliest
that.
videos on my channel. I think they are not online anymore, but I actually had like 2-3 videos about Idris, and I implemented, I don't know, the categorical product or something like that. So this is when I was reading into this, and I saw ACTA, and I tried to read up the library, see how they compare. I know that there's this System F Wikipedia page, which is related to ROC. And I tried to see what is the difference between all the systems and so on and so forth. And then Lean came in. I mean, Lean had a very cool logo with for all the exists symbol.
Yeah.
And I know that it was like sponsored by Microsoft, SBOSS, F# or F star. And there was at this time also a lot of discussion on the N category, the N Cafe and the N Lab, and these kind of Lie-star base circles where they were very critical of taking funding from the American military and getting in bed with these big companies and so on and so forth. So I was under the impression that the academic mathematicians would not opt for taking the money, or would not be so much aligned. But then, like within a few years, I know there's this Kmet or so, Kemet. Like there's
yeah.
Is he also associated with Lean? I'm not sure, or is he just a Haskell guy?
I'm sorry. What?
Like is this Haskell guru who also is known for writing a lot of articles? I think it's called Kmet. His name is Kmet or something like that.
I'm not familiar. I know Kevin Buzzard is a big guy in this area.
Yeah,
but
he exactly. He has very like a little bit. I even want to say flamboyant articles. Like I know he gets into fights with set theorists a lot and stuff.
Yeah,
and then suddenly, like when I now see big results, or this has been validated, this big proof has been validated, it's always Lean, and I cannot really piece it together how they won out, because I only have tangential knowledge of how these things develop on the side, but I'm surprised that I do not hear much about ACTA and Cork. Why is this the community? They were like weaker. If you know anything about it, then let me know like why this is. Tell me maybe why did you not, if you're like interested in that, not maybe jump into Lean? Why do you still stick with the Lispy versions?
Well, so I guess it comes back to me always. I have this problem, and I guess where I always am obsessed with understanding everything, and I guess I don't know. I liked when I first learned Lisp when I hanging out on the technology board on 4chan. And people kept talking about it, and I just became sort of smitten with it. I really liked the language, and it started with SICP. Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs, and it's kind of this like wizard book or whatever, and it's like all whatever. So
sorcerer book.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I discovered that kind of the history of like Lisp and much of this stuff was to in some sense was to encode Church's lambda calculus, into physical computer form, let's say.
Yeah.
And at the time, I credit you actually with a lot of influence into mathematical foundations in general, because I don't know, you had talked about it a lot, and I don't know, it's just really, I never, the funny thing is I never took any foundations course formally in school, but it always piqued my interest. And then hearing about these things like Heiting algebras and what, I don't know, model theory and proof that, I started, and I guess I started thinking myself about things like, and maybe these are even really sort of somewhat intractable questions, but like, like how do we know we can prove something or we can't prove something? What is the most, because all you do in mathematics is proofs. So eventually you start asking, well, what is a proof? How can we better understand proofs? What can we do? What are the limits or the fundamental limitations? Like, I even remember for a while, actually, this was probably a while ago, you were into reverse mathematics, maybe?
I appreciate it still. Because
Yeah.
it only uses second order arithmetic, and this is very clean, and it has basically no axioms that you can properly argue against, especially if you go down to the Weil system.
Yeah.
The ACA 0. Like the appeal of it is that it has like this very, like, it basically has just weak forms of induction, and it just has natural numbers, and it has quantifiers over subsets of natural numbers. But what I find so appealing about about the reverse mathematics is its axiom system, is the fact that most of mathematics, if you want to do category theory, it will not suffice, but like a lot of practical mathematics is in there, and it's so backed up by this very clear, weak axiom system. And so, yeah, I was never into it. I read 1-2 books about it,
Okay.
but I appreciate that it exists. And if I write down some theorem and it is provable in second order arithmetic, then this gives a little bit more credence to it in my eyes. It will be like, you can basically write down no type system, and these theorems fail. Whereas if you have some bigger sets, then your system might, at least in its representation, have problems with it. So, just sorry for this mini rant, but if you already referencing me, then yeah, I'm not into it in that I can afford to spend too much time actually working in these systems, but I appreciate that it exists and that this was done.
Yeah, no, I just, that's like, it's like a subfield of proof theory, and I thought that was a particularly interesting area. I actually, the first time around I was applying to doctoral programs, I actually applied to I think it was at UConn, University of Connecticut. The guy who wrote that book is there, and I had elected I wanted to work with him. I didn't get in, but yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting little thing, but yeah, I don't know. Foundations is interesting to me because it sort of teeters on the edge of philosophy, but it still feels like mathematics, and it seems like classical foundations is mostly dead, perhaps due to Gödel or Gödel, but and I think that's why eventually I started realizing a lot of the stuff that kind of feels like foundations or is an extension of foundations is found in theoretical computer science stuff nowadays. Especially, category theory is still, I guess, kind of
so I would not agree that because of Gödel anything is not foundations anymore. Surely some people initially didn't like that, but it also makes the mathematics a lot richer, because you can study in glory detail why things fail, and you have the Turing jumps and all these kind of crazy things that resulted out of it. I think depending on how you draw the lines of what foundation means, like if Gödel would not be a thing, if we can just find this nice, like, self-collected, self-consistent, unextendable thing, then probably foundations would really be over, because then it would be just a closed subject.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess perhaps my comment of that comes from I had read like some negative. I don't know. Maybe I had read some negative sentiment that people kind of felt defeated after his
Yeah,
his
the
career. So,
sure afterwards, but I mean this is also 100
yeah, a
years ago,
while ago. Yeah, I
and
mean,
this was before computer science, right?
yes, and I mean, there's still like I think like finite model theories, but like model theory in general seems to be big, and finite model theory, this sort of stuff. Actually, some of the stuff I did with topology, it dips because you're dealing with these like transfinite systems or like uncountable loops and spaces and things like some of the stuff actually goes into like set theory and force. Like I remember there's this theory. Okay, it's been a while, but like I don't know. Do you know Shalah? Are you familiar with the mathematician Shalah? He's
Uh,
Israeli.
yeah, I mean I know he exists. I know he has some theorems that
Okay.
are explicated in on Wikipedia. I know that he was a big name or is a big name. I think he's still alive.
Yeah, he's still alive. Actually, there's a guy in our server who actually went to Israel to work with him. But anyway, um, he had I mean, I'm not going to remember the result off the top of my head, but anyway, he had proved something about a specific case of the fundamental group uh, of computing fundamental groups of like certain like what we'll just call them like wild spaces, like they're not well behaved, which was the area of specialty my advisor was in, and he actually used like forcing from set theory to prove it. I don't know, just like connections like that, really interesting to me. Stuff like that. Again,
Okay.
this is more pure math, but um,
Okay. So I I'm running out of battery, sadly, and I cannot
all right,
switch without unplugging my microphone. I mean, I could
it's
do that and
fine.
switch the
We've
microphone,
been doing
but
this a
we've been
lot.
going on for over 2.5 hours. You're so far the um, longest conversation, and this will also be the longest video I think on my YouTube channel. I have a video from
Yeah,
years ago where I talk about the axioms of set theory, and it's over 2 hours long, I think, but it is not as long as this one. But
well,
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
yeah,
Um, as I said, you are welcome. And if you find like a text to debate over or to talk over and to like explicate for the my viewers, then we can do that maybe in the future podcast. We can prepare something, like a short paper or so. Then I
yeah,
would
for sure.
love to invite you back, and maybe we'll see each other also in Japan next year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to speak with you again.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Okay, then I will end the stream, the video now at least,
All right.
the recording now.